I'm here on the banks of a little canal that shoots off the Maribyrnong River to check out a bit of an obscure historical site that you're actually probably more likely to stumble across than you are to read about, which I've wanted to come to for a while. It's this place over here. Now, if that just looks like a big mound of earth surrounded by a bluestone wall, then you wouldn't be wrong. But within that is something I find quite interesting, a little place called Jack's Magazine. So let's go check it out. So Jack's Magazine, which was originally known as the Saltwater River Gunpowder Magazine, dates back to 1878. It's a site that used to store gunpowder and later other dangerous explosive material along the banks of the Maribyrnong River. It's the largest magazine built in Victoria and regularly held over 180 tons of gunpowder and other explosives. It was decommissioned in the 1990s and essentially abandoned, but Working Heritage was appointed in 2015 to manage the site. It was originally constructed because during the Victorian gold rush, gunpowder was very often used for mining operations. And since there were no gunpowder factories in Australia, all of the gunpowder needed to be imported. There were already a few other magazines that existed in the state, but they were much closer to people who were worried about the risk of explosions. So Jack's Magazine was chosen to be put here on the Maribyrnong River because it was far away from any people at the time, as well as having a natural valley which gave some form of protection. Additionally, being close to the river meant that everything could be put onto barges and shipped up the river, which meant that it was very easy to get the gunpowder in and out as needed. So these green doors behind me are part of the original loading dock right at the end of the canal that I was standing at the beginning of the video. So what would happen is they would bring the gunpowder in by barges down the canal and then use that hoist that you can see over there to lift it up, get it to the height that it needs to be taken into the magazine. Over time, Jack's Magazine did grow, so anything you see here that's made out of bluestone can be reasonably assumed to be part of the original 1878 site, whereas the brick buildings were constructed during the 1910s and 20s for things like administration, as well as storage of more modern explosive technology rather than gunpowder. So we've come across a little bit of a problem trying to explore the magazine this morning. I did see online that they did tours of Jack's Magazine so that you can go inside all the buildings and see it all. But I thought that there would still be kind of some public exploring space. So when I got here, I saw this door was locked up and I thought to myself, yeah, makes sense. You don't want the public just roaming around in all these historic buildings. And I saw this big gate over here and I thought to myself, yep, it makes sense. You don't want people just driving around in the compound. But I did think there would be somewhere you would be able to actually get in and explore those earth mounds or something like that at least. But it seems like that's not the case because the big bluestone walls, they're meant to keep people out. So I'm guessing there's only a couple of entryways. One of them, I'm pretty sure would be that gate right over there. And the other is just over here at the loading dock. And it has it has a lock on it. So we're not getting in that way. So what I'm going to do is walk around, see if there's anywhere else along these walls that happens to have an entryway. My guess is probably not, because you probably want minimal entries and exits into a place that's storing 180 tons of gunpowder. So I don't think we're getting in. We'll have to come back another time and do one of those tours so that we can actually see from the blast mounds, see inside the buildings, see all the good stuff that makes this place interesting and historic. We are able to see one other thing here, just a tiny little glimpse of it, but we've got the old cartway that goes from the loading dock and the rails continue on past that door. So I'm sure if you go past that door, you'll be able to follow those all the way into the magazine. That's where they would have been taking the gunpowder along on little trolleys to get it all loaded up and bring it out, but not making it past that door, so we're not going to be seeing that today. There was some pretty meticulous craftsmanship that went into building Jack's Magazine, especially the original 1878 parts, and just checking out this little part of the bluestone wall here, you can definitely see there was some pretty fantastic work that went into it. That wall looks like it's going to be around for quite some time. It's already been, over 150 years Someone do the maths on that. I am not awake enough at this time of the morning, but the wall looks very solid, very intact, very strong. So I think it's going to be here for quite some time. This wall is actually really quite long, so I did the maths myself because I've got time. Turns out it's 147 years, not quite the 150 yet. So maybe we come back here in 3 years' time, have that 150th anniversary and see if it's actually open, doing some tours. Check it out inside. What do you think? We've got some of the other external buildings outside the blast mound. And as far as I have read, those were built a little bit later, sometime around the 1920s, for storing some more modern style explosives that were not gunpowder based. So they didn't actually need the giant blast walls around them, because they were a little bit more stable, a little bit more safe to contain in just a bit more of a simple brick building, rather than the massive bluestone and earth mounds required for the gunpowder. Got a nice bit of public green space here right next to the magazine, and the planting that they've done along the bluestone wall, I bet there's people who walk along here every day and never even know that the magazine is there. I've got an alright sort of a view here on one of the parts of the blast mounds, so you can definitely see how tall and how wide and thick those mounds are, which would be very important in making sure that that explosion gets redirected upwards and does minimal damage outwards, trying to keep it contained, not letting it spread to the other side of the magazine or the surrounding areas. So definitely some thick earth walls going on over there. So I made it 3/4 of the way around the walls. No other entries yet. It's not looking good. We've just got the one high wall left. I'm up here at the top of the hill now though, and there's some pretty great views of Melbourne. So it's a nice little morning getting my steps in. Not exactly what I expected to do, but let's go check out this final wall, see if there's any other entries. I'm guessing probably not. But if not, we'll get the drone out. We'll take a little look from the sky. So I'm back around pretty much to where I started now. There were no other entries, so these bluestone walls still doing their job 147 years later, keeping people out, keeping the things inside protected. So that's great, but unfortunately for me, means we're not going to be seeing any of the stuff close up. You might be able to just see a glimpse of the roof of the magazine over there though. As you can probably see and maybe hear in the background behind me, they've started mowing the lawns, so we're going to go see if we can find a bit of a quieter spot. And it is 7:30 in the morning, so I'm sure I'm not the only one around here that's not loving the volume this early in the morning. Walking around this parkland down here, you can see pretty much nothing else but the bluestone wall, no other signs of civilization, so it does kind of make you feel like you're back in that 1870s, 1880s sort of era. It's nice, it's tranquil, apart from the lawnmowers going on, but you wouldn't really think that you're in the heart of modern Melbourne here at Jack's Magazine. It's a bit of a throwback in time, I like it. We're pretty much back to where we started, so I think that's going to be a wrap on Jack's Magazine, at least for today. A little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see some more, but that's the nature of adventures. You're finding out information about places you haven't been before. So I'm still glad I came, still got to see some pretty cool stuff, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you want to see us actually go inside, make sure you hit subscribe, so whenever I find a tour and actually make it in there, you'll be able to check that out. But thanks for coming with me on this little adventure. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you next week.